Donald Trump's presidency sent shockwaves through the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. His approach to the alliance was unorthodox and disruptive. Trump openly questioned the value of NATO. He criticized member states for not spending enough on their own defense. He argued that the United States was shouldering an unfair burden. Trump's demands were clear. NATO members needed to contribute their fair share. He repeatedly emphasized the 2% of GDP spending target, a goal set in 2014 but largely ignored by many members. Trump even suggested a higher target of 5% would be more appropriate. His message was blunt and consistent: invest more in defense or risk losing the United States security umbrella. This tough stance rattled European leaders. Some viewed it as a sign of American disengagement from Europe. Others saw it as an opportunity to reassess their own defense capabilities. Regardless of the interpretation, Trump's pressure had a tangible impact. NATO members started increasing their defense budgets in response to his demands. Trump's approach to NATO was a radical departure from his predecessors. His transactional view of the alliance challenged the traditional notion of shared responsibility. While his methods were often controversial, there is no doubt that he shook up the status quo and forced Europe to take its defense commitments more seriously. Trump's relentless pressure on NATO allies did not go unnoticed. European nations, long accustomed to relying on the United States for their security, began to increase their defense spending. This shift was driven by a combination of factors: Trump's rhetoric, the growing threat from Russia, and a renewed focus on European strategic autonomy. Before Trump took office, only a handful of NATO members met the 2% GDP spending target. By 2024, that number had significantly increased. 23 members were now meeting their commitment, a testament to the impact of Trump's pressure campaign. Poland, a staunch advocate for increased defense spending, became a poster child for this trend. The country, which shares a border with Russia and Ukraine, now boasts the highest defense spending in NATO at 4.12% of its GDP. Even countries that historically lagged behind in defense spending started to ramp up their contributions. Spain, for example, announced plans to reach the 2% target by 2029. The country's defense budget has increased by 50% since 2018, reaching €12.8 billion. This surge in defense spending across Europe signifies a turning point in the continent's security posture. While Trump's demands for increased spending were initially met with resistance, they ultimately had a significant impact. European nations facing a more assertive Russia and a less predictable United States realized the need to invest more in their own defense. This shift towards greater self-reliance marked a new chapter in the transatlantic security relationship. Despite the uptick in defense spending, Europe still faces significant challenges in achieving true self-reliance. Years of underinvestment have left European militaries with capability gaps and interoperability issues. The lack of a unified command structure outside of NATO further complicates matters. One of the most pressing challenges is the lack of key technologies. Europe remains heavily dependent on the United States for advanced weaponry and intelligence gathering. This dependence undermines European strategic autonomy and limits its ability to act independently in a crisis. Moreover, the European defense industry is fragmented, with duplication of efforts and a lack of coordination. Another obstacle is the political will to sustain higher levels of defense spending over the long term. European governments face competing demands for public funds, and defense often takes a back seat to social welfare programs or infrastructure projects. The absence of a clear and present danger beyond Russia's aggression in Ukraine makes it difficult to justify sustained increases in defense budgets. Overcoming these challenges will require a concerted effort from European nations to pool resources, streamline defense procurement, and develop a shared strategic vision. The European Union has taken some steps in this direction with initiatives like the European Defence Fund and permanent structured cooperation. However, progress has been slow, and much more needs to be done to ensure that Europe can defend itself effectively in an increasingly uncertain world. The future of NATO remains uncertain, shaped by the evolving dynamics between the United States and Europe. A potential second Trump term could have significant implications for the alliance. Trump has hinted at withdrawing U.S. troops from Europe, reducing U.S. involvement in Ukraine, and setting even more aggressive capability targets for NATO members. Such a scenario would force Europe to accelerate its path towards self-reliance. It would also test the unity of the alliance, as some members might be reluctant to shoulder the additional burden. The potential for a transatlantic rift is real, particularly if Trump adopts a more confrontational approach towards European allies. However, even without Trump at the helm, the United States is likely to continue pushing for greater burden sharing within NATO. The Biden administration has shown a commitment to the alliance but has also emphasized the need for Europe to do more. This suggests that the trend towards a more equitable transatlantic security partnership is likely to continue. The future of NATO hinges on finding the right balance between American leadership and European responsibility. A stronger, more capable Europe is in the best interest of both sides of the Atlantic. It would allow the United States to focus on other strategic priorities, such as the Indo-Pacific region, while ensuring that Europe can defend itself against emerging threats. However, achieving this balance will require sustained commitment, dialogue, and a shared understanding of the challenges ahead.